Hi there, I'm Levi with Saratoga Wine, and today I am joined by our special guest, Stephen Wilson, the Director of Whiskey Engagement for Crown Royal.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's always good to share good whiskey with good people. I think sometimes with Canadian whiskey, folks often say, well, what exactly is a Canadian whiskey, right? I think when we look at it in the world, we see tons of books written on bourbon and tons of books written on Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskey. And Canadian whiskey sometimes maybe it's a little too polite. But Canadian whiskey as a category is pretty exciting. So when we look at the basics of a Canadian whiskey, we know it's going to be produced in Canada, right? So mash distilled, aged in Canada. It's going to be produced from cereal grains. It'll be aged for a minimum of 3 years in what we call small wood barrels. So any barrel 700 liters or less. It'll be bottled at no less than 40%. And then my favorite part, and I know you got a little chuckle on this earlier, is it must possess the aroma, taste, and character generally attributed to Canadian whiskey.
Sure. Of course, we all know.
We all know that.
We all know what that is.
But I love it, right? Because it allows for, and even today we're going to talk about this, it allows for innovation and experimentation. The original blend was created back in 1939, and it was created for King George VI and his wife, Queen Elizabeth. So the current king's grandparents, if you look at it that way. But in 1939, they were doing a royal tour of Canada. Pretty big deal, right? To have a royalty visit.
Of course.
So folks were rolling out the red carpet, presenting the king and queen with all kinds of wonderful gifts. And there was a gentleman by the name of Sam Bronfman. Mr. Bronfman was part of the Seagram's empire at the time. Very, very good businessman, also a very skilled whiskey blender. And he thought, well, what do I have to offer? I have some incredible whiskey. And so he put together a blend of what he considered to be his finest whiskeys, a whiskey that met the uncompromising standards of a king and queen. And Crown Royal was born. So when we think about the shape of the bottle, the purple bag, that was all part of that original gift for the king and queen. They produced about 10 cases, presented them to the royal train car, and then they continued to produce it, maybe for dignitaries, VIPs.
Okay.
But as anything, folks call it word. And in the 60s, we really saw its way make its way into the U.S. Okay. For a long time, we only had Crown Royal Deluxe.
Yeah.
That was the flagship, the hero. And then in the last few years, well, more than just a few at this point, we've certainly expanded. We have a lot that we'll talk through today. But I think Crown Royal is one of those whiskeys that I often ask folks, you've seen it, you know it, you're familiar with it, but how well do you really know it?
Exactly.
There's a reason it's been around for as long as it has. I'll pour you a little glass. So our flagship is our Crown Royal Deluxe. We have an incredible distillery in Gimli, Manitoba. So Gimli is about an hour-ish north of Winnipeg, Manitoba, right in the center of Canada. Gimli's a small little town just off the shores of Lake Winnipeg. We have about 80 men and women that work at our distillery. Absolutely incredible human beings, some of my favorite folks to visit. But what we start with at the distillery is we start with corn, rye, and barley. So those are the 3 cereal grains we use. From there, folks often say, well, what's the mash bill of Crown Royal? Well, there's not one. We actually create multiple mash bills. So we'll use the corn, rye, barley, we'll create multiple mash bills, we'll use different distillation techniques. And what we start with are these 5 individual styles of whiskey. So 2 of them are corn-based whiskey, 2 of them are essentially a bourbon-style whiskey. Obviously, it's a product of Canada, so we'll say,
can't be calling that.
We'll do air quotes, a little bourbon style. And then one of them is a big, bold rye whiskey. But what that's going to do, it's going to form the foundation, the building blocks for our blenders. And then we're going to bring barrels in brand new to the distillery, and then we're going to continue to reuse them so we can kind of control and manipulate flavor. And the idea is we start with those 5 building blocks and we quickly multiply out all of these choices for our blenders. And then we're going to let them sleep. We're going to let them do their thing. You want to take a guess on how many barrels we have? Just roughly. Throw it out there.
Greater than 5.
5 million?
Oh,
or just
more
5?
You said you have 5 whiskeys, so you at least got 5 laying around.
We have 6. Yeah, there's that rogue barrel. So 1.7 million.
Wow.
So fun fact, there are more barrels of whiskey aging at our distillery in Gimli than there are people in all of Manitoba. You can use that. That's free. That's right there for you. It's a little party trivia for you. But we let them age, right? We let them develop. We let them develop all their flavor. And then when the time comes, our blenders are going to step in and we're going to select the right whiskeys, the right building blocks, if you will, right? To make sure that Crown Royal Deluxe tastes like Crown Royal Deluxe for us today or 6 months from now, 6 years from now, whatever it might be. So let's have a little taste. Let's bring it up to our nose. I know something we talked about earlier, but I always love to talk about this. Crown Royal it's an approachable whiskey. It's not a high proof bourbon. It's not a big peated Scotch whiskey. It's not supposed to be, right? It's a whiskey that was designed for the king and queen.
There is definitely still youthfulness to it, a much sweeter, sweet wood, almost a caramel toasted note to it. Vanilla is definitely present throughout that. Definitely the cookie vanilla sweetness you get there.
There's like a butterscotch almost, and we talk about that fruity or kind of juicy or fruitier quality to it. To me, there's always a little bit of a chocolatey note to it as well.
Yeah, you're not getting aggressively knocked in the face by like over wooded product, higher proof thing, which I think is a point to be made there too. The approachability of it is, it's meant to be consumed and enjoyed.
I always say it just kind of reaches out of the glass and caresses your cheek in a very loving way. And then we have a lot of rye in there too, right? So we get a lot of those baking spices and clove, and we get some of those flavors. Should we have a little taste?
We should.
We kind of get the fruity or floral notes. We get that bourbon style, if you will, in there. We get a little bit of that creaminess, that sweetness from those corn whiskeys, that butterscotch. And then Crown Royal to me has such a beautiful and distinct finish. We always say that kind of unmistakable Crown Royal finish, if you will.
It's soft, it's silky, it's well-rounded.
This is the newest member of the Crown Royal family. So this is our Crown Royal Reserve Aged 12 year. It does come in the regular 750. We just happen to have the big fella today for you and I. Two tall, distinguished gentlemen. We have a big bottle. That's what we do. But this is a really special whiskey. You know, for a very long time, we talked about the history of Crown. And originally, we just kind of had the OG for many, many, many years. And then we had a whiskey called Crown Royal Reserve in the early 90s. And so if you and I were doing this in 94, we'd have two whiskeys on the table.
I wouldn't be at this table.
I would be at this table. I'd be thinking, where's Levi? Why isn't he here with me?
He's under the table somewhere.
But this whiskey is that Crown Reserve that we knew is going to fade away, and this is going to be the whiskey that actually takes its place. And I love this. We're putting an age statement on here,
which is a big deal in the whiskey world right now. Too,
absolutely. So especially for a Canadian whiskey, and especially for Crown. So the youngest whiskey in this is 12 years. It's going to follow the traditional blending like we talked about with Luxe. So we're going to have all those component whiskeys working together. This is not Crown Royal Deluxe aged a few more years though. This is a completely different blend. If you were to talk to our distillery team proper, like their goal is to create these individual styles every day to the highest of standards. And then our maturation team would be quick to tell you, their goal is to take that brand new wood or the refill casks. And again, we're going to continue to reuse the barrels and really start to think about 10, 12 years from now, like how do we create these building blocks? So that when our blenders, they have just endless possibilities of how they can put things together. So there's always going to be that house style, right? Which makes sense. We're pulling from the same building blocks, but how do we put them together, right? So your house might be slightly different than my house, but we're using the same materials, which is pretty awesome.
For me, there's definitely more of a mature wood to it. I think this is where the chocolate and the cocoa notes come out more for me. There's definitely that spice note on there, some more like cinnamons and stuff kind of being more present. Definitely. There's a similarity between the two, but this definitely plays richer. It shows the age. It shows that it's a step up. It's a little more elevated. So I think it does exactly what it's supposed to do.
I love this because right off the top, it's fruity, it's floral. We get some of those nice big vanilla notes. We get those rye notes that we talked about.
Yeah, the rye notes
right?
are much more prominent on this too, and gives it a much spicier finish on it too. Which makes it feel like it drinks a little higher on its proof there, although it's still sitting in that same range there. Which is just kind of show that it's not necessarily proof that you need to worry about. You want something with a richer flavor too. So it's a great example.
This is our Crown Royal aged 18 years. So this whiskey, again, following the same tradition of blending, the same high standards that we have. The difference here, the youngest whiskey is 18 years. For me, I started working in the whiskey industry 18 years ago. And so it's kind of an interesting thing. I had that moment, probably once we launched this, I had that moment of like, oh, wow. But now I've actually come up on 18 years. So for me, it's like very much like, oh, wow, what have I seen? Who have I met? Folks like yourself, all these incredible experiences I've had, all these beautiful whiskeys that I've tried. This whiskey's just been patiently waiting.
This is where it starts making that change, where the wood is starting to actually round it out a little bit more again. It gets to this peak, and then it softens itself back out with the 18-year on it. And this one really shows fruit for me a lot more like red fruit notes kind of creeping in there, like a little cherry, subtle cherry into it, but still that vanilla, and it holds up on the palate too, just silky, and that just creamy finish on it too. We're back in the same thing where the proof across the board, this just drinks much softer and silkier. It drinks below its proof almost, if you will. And it makes you just want to keep going back for it.
It shows the reason that Crown Royal has been around for as long as it has. So, a whiskey that was born out of a gift, it's still a very generous gift in a lot of ways. And when we kind of start elevating through the 12 and the 18, we really see how, again, starting with the right ingredients and producing the right spirits and putting in the right types of wood and being patient, and then the art of blending. So it's that kind of science of distillation, the art of blending. It's the combination of those two things. whiskey as a category is on the rise, right? So more and more folks are kind of discovering the category, and you're seeing more and more flavored whiskey. And so for Crown being a leader when it comes to Canadian whiskey, what can we do that maybe no one else is doing? How can we create an elevated flavored whiskey? I want to know what that blend tastes like without the flavor component. Because we always talk about we start with the whiskey first. And so when you take away that, for example, with our Regal apple, it's a Gala apple flavoring. But underneath that is a Crown Royal blend. Now, it's not going to be the same as the blends we've just looked at, right? It's going to be a little lighter, a little creamier, more kind of juicier, fruitier butterscotch kind of quality. But it still meets the same standards. It's still aged the same way. And then we take that blend, and to that blend, we bring in that flavor component. But for this, it's not just apple, it's Gala apple.
So trying through a lot of flavored spirits and flavored things like that, apple always leans towards that sour apple pucker. Everyone remembers. This feels much fresher, feels like real apple.
It's
and
bright.
I think it's, and it's, you actually know that the flavoring there is intentional, not a cover up for something. For me, the whiskey plays into the blend. It's not just apple, it's apple with some caramel, it's apple with some vanilla, it's apple with toast and stuff, and it truly becomes a apple flavored whiskey, not a apple whiskey.
Right.
And I think that's where the elevation from Crown Royal really stands out.
We'll host an event, and you meet all these wonderful aficionados when it comes to whiskey, and it's always fun when they'll say, I'm not really a flavored whiskey person, and I'll always say, just try it. If we're at a whiskey festival, or if it's a little dinner, or even like an in-store kind of sampling, you're in a safe space, just give it a try. And 99% of the time, most folks try it and go, that's pretty good. Yeah, and it's fun, right? And it is, and what I find too is a lot of folks maybe who don't think they like whiskey will try a flavored whiskey, and then it kind of gets them thinking, oh, I do like whiskey. And then before you know it, maybe they want to try the deluxe or the 12-year, and they'll still go back to the apple.
It gives the comfortable entrance, and then allows them to explore when they are more comfortable getting into it. Yeah,
absolutely. And we always love it when folks enjoy good whiskey, right? So we like it to be Crown Royal, but there's lots of great whiskeys out there. So if you're enjoying whiskey, I will gladly have a whiskey with you. So we have a couple more whiskeys to talk about, but we're going to jump to the friend in the center there. So this is taking flavored whiskey to a whole new level. This is our Crown Royal Golden Apple, aged 23 years. Yes, you heard that correctly, aged 23 years. So this is actually a traditional Crown Royal blend. So it's going to have all of those individual styles of whiskey like we saw with the aged 18 and the aged 12. Difference here, this is aged 23 years. We take that blend, and to that blend, we bring in this golden delicious apple flavoring. So a little different than what we experienced with our Regal apple. So it's kind of taking flavored whiskey to the next level, if you will. Sure. We'll have a little bit of fun with this one. And it's absolutely beautiful packaging, which I love. That's the thing, the bag has always been part of that original gift. We talked about that.
Yeah. What is the story that was just part of the packaging, or is there more of a story behind it?
No, it was more of like, for Mr. Bronfman, for Mr. Sam, as we call him, he's created this amazing whiskey. It's very special to him, and so it's all about, well, how do you present that? Like the liquid's good, so now I have to elevate. So it was the cut glass decanter, and then that purple hand-stitched bag again brought everything together. So it was a gift. It was. Welcome to Canada.
I bet his gift went over well in the train there. Everyone.
I would think so. As I've always told
hate
folks,
to be the person who had to go after him.
I wasn't there, but I would like to think the king and queen enjoyed some, if not some of the royal entourage, if you will. That was they quite a trip too. They traversed through Canada and back, and then visited the U.S. as part of that trip as well. So I would hope that a little taste of Crown Royal was enjoyed.
Yes.
I always think it reminds me of like one of those big caramel apples that you would get, like a county fair or something like that. There's something very distinct about it.
It's just much less sweet because it doesn't need to be flavored with anything. There's just this well-aged whiskey and this complementary, like soft, supple, like super ripe apple flavor there. It's a premium almost cocktail that you couldn't make a cocktail of if you were trying to make that cocktail.
Yeah. We do have one more whiskey. I know we're not going to taste it, but I wanted to mention it, which is our Crown Royal Blackberry. And again, same thing. It's following the traditions of what we saw with Crown Royal Apple. We're always going to have that really lovely whiskey underneath it all. And in this case, we're going to bring that blackberry flavor. And of course, we have a Crown Royal Peach and a Crown Royal Vanilla as well. So there's always some interesting things working behind the scenes.
I think they do really well playing into, they know what they have, so it's the understanding of their product and being able to, if they want to expand, knowing how to expand properly. It's a line that clearly knows how to play the game, and they've done really well at it. Everyone's familiar with Crown Royal, and everyone has seen it on the shelf. Everyone's seen the Elevate on the back of a bar or something, and I think to actually revisit the brand and kind of come more in tune of where this has gone from this first label is really just kind of mind-blowing, that you can have this much variety, quality, consistency, uniqueness into a single brand in the same house, and it all being executed at a top tier level, which I think is just fantastic.
No, I appreciate you saying that. And you can always visit, crownroyal.com. We have great cocktail recipes on there. You can learn more about the whiskeys. Levi, I appreciate it, man.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you can also find all these products too on SaratogaWine.com. And yeah, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
And this was a great treat.
Should we go have another 18 year?
Might as well.
I think we will. Thanks.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.